Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to AARP Indiana's fourth Caregiver Weeklies event of 2023. If this is your first time tuning in, I just want to let you know a little bit more about the Caregiver Weeklies program. It's a virtual event series that provides access to caregiving experts and resources from all across the state of Indiana on a weekly basis throughout the month of November. Some of you may know that November is Family Caregiving Month, so that's why we're doing this on a weekly basis to make sure that we can equip folks with the information that they need to take on this important job. We hope that the information and insights shared thus far and those that are forthcoming next week, which is our final episode of the month, will help you in your personal caregiving journeys. I'm Addison Pollock. I'm the Director of Community Engagement with AARP Indiana, and I am so proud to be joined today by two of some of our greatest volunteers, Tamara Gwynn and Andy Simpson. They are both members of the Indianapolis volunteer team, which is an awesome team. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Please use the chat to enter any topic that you would like us to touch on today. I can't guarantee that we will get to everything, but we will do our best to be able to speak to those that are on your mind. Also use the chat to submit questions. That's the main way that participants will be able to communicate with our speakers. And again, we'll do our best to answer those questions. I do want to remind everyone that our final Caregiver Weeklies event is this next Monday, the 27th at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. We'll be joined by two special guests. Our first is our coworker, my coworker, Amber Marr, who is our state legislative director, as well as Andrew Bean with the state of Indiana's Division of Aging. They're going to discuss AARP's recently released long-term care scorecard for states, as well as changes that are coming down the pike for long-term care in the state of Indiana. You can register for these upcoming events at www.aarp.org/in, and there you will find not only registration for our final event, but previous episode recordings, so you can watch those at your leisure, including today's event, which is being recorded and will be available as soon as possible. So, turning our focus to today's event, I'm really glad to be here with you. We're going to be talking about AARP's HomeFit program. This is a helpful resource that features smart ways to make our home more comfortable, safe, and a great fit for older adults, but also people of all ages and abilities. The presentation will highlight do-it-yourself ways to make your home a little bit more safe, convenient, accessible, but also those professional adaptations that can help make your home also more comfortable and safe. We are all about creating environments that support people's ability to age in their home and community where they want to be, which we'll talk more about. So whether you're a caregiver or someone who is interested in making your home fit for aging, this is a great resource and we encourage you to check it out. I just also want to note that the HomeFit presentation is available as a guide, which you can find at www.aarp.org/livable. You can order hard copies as well as download a digital version. So without further ado, we will get started here. All right, so at AARP, we really care about livable communities. And the reason for this is because we want to make communities of a lifetime, those that support every stage of life. And really what we believe is that safety and livability of a community starts at home. So home is where we spend a lot of time in our communities, and that's what today is about, making our homes fit for all stages of life. We are going to focus on safety and livability, and a lot of the design principles that we talk about today and the products that we'll touch on are adaptable, they're safe, and they're easy to use. Many are smartly designed and stylish, so it shouldn't be a concern of, whether, my home is drastically going to change in its appearance or anything like that. You can make this work. It's adaptable, and these changes come at all price points. So I just want to highlight that this is something that anyone can really indulge in and to help them and their family members. Right. So with today's agenda, we're going to talk about the perks of making your home fit. So that's sort of the why aspect of why to do this. Why should we make our homes more fit? We're going to talk about universal design, which is the how. So how do we get there? And then we're also going to touch on the home tour. So we're going to go room by room through every household common rooms that we have, which is really the what you'll be addressing with that universal design concept. I do want to note that there's green stars that you'll see next to certain text. That is to indicate that that's a quick fix or maybe like low hanging fruit that you're able to maybe apply more quickly than other fixes. Okay, so workshop objectives. Participants in today's presentation, you'll be able to recognize how a home can be modified to support your changing needs or those of your loved ones and their lifestyle at any age. You'll be able to determine which modifications are important for maintaining your lifestyle or your family's lifestyle that you desire. And then you'll, as I mentioned before, distinguish between those modifications that are do-it-yourself, quick fixes, as well as those that might be left to a professional because they are probably something that's like a little bit more intense and you might need certain tools to take care of those and make sure that things are installed properly. So I also want to mention that for the audience for this presentation, it's not just family members, folks like that. We need to really think about how we design our homes going forward. So today's presentation is about existing housing stock and how we can make it more accessible and safer. But we need to also think about housing stock in the future. So this is also a presentation in information that needs to be shared with elected officials. We are at heart an advocacy organization. So I believe that we need to really include our decision makers in this conversation as new housing is being built, but also making sure that resources are available for existing homeowners and tenants. So this is a key ingredient for promoting aging in place, and that is why we want to make sure that decision makers are part of the conversation. So home sweet home. You know, everyone in the chat, if you want to answer the question on this slide, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word home? That would be awesome. I know when I hear the word home, I think of things like comfort or relaxation. I was actually presenting I was presenting this on Saturday, and someone said that kitchen, that's where the food is, which I completely understand because I'm standing in my kitchen right now. I see that one of our participants said a safe place, warmth, exactly. Those are great adjectives to describe the word home. It's what conjures up feelings of comfort, warmth, food. I love it. Thank you so much, everybody. So yeah, we realize that home is a really important place, and it's a place that we want to be. So we need to continue to make it a place where we can be throughout our life. So I want to talk now about the cost of not staying in your home. This is a really eye-opening slide, I think, because we really talk about how, when you go through the room by room examination or the tour of this presentation, you'll be thinking to yourself, well, man, that modification might be really expensive, or that's something that I'm going to have to take out a loan to do, or I might eat up a lot of my savings doing that. I mean, that is a valid concern, which I completely understand, but we have to keep two things in mind. The first is quality of life. We know that home is where people want to stay as they grow older, and we're all growing older. That's the goal, right? It's a good thing. Quality of life for Hoosiers is super important because 86% of Indiana residents want to live in their home and community, according to our Vital Voices survey from 2021. We know that this is where people want to be. It's where they want to be able to navigate it independently, and that's why we care about livable communities. So quality of life is key, but there's also a cost factor. So long-term care costs can actually be fairly expensive and sometimes outweigh the cost of that of a modification. So And I'm not picking on any particular, long-term care support that's listed here. But we understand at AARP that these play a valid and a vital role in our care economy. But I do want to just illustrate the cost. So, private duty home health care aides on a monthly basis in Indiana, on average, comes out to around $4,700. And assisted living facility costs, on average, in Indiana, costs around $4,200 a month. Adult day services, so adult daycare, or some say adult day centers, that can come out to around $1,700 a month. And then nursing homes, semi-private rooms, around $7,200, and then a private nursing home is around $8,700. So these are substantial costs, and I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through and talk about the various modifications. So this is one of my last couple slides before I hand it over. I did want to talk about universal design, which is accommodating all people of all abilities. So now that we know the why of why remaining in your home is important, I want to talk about the how. So universal design is designing products and environments that accommodate people of all ages and all needs, whether those needs be physical, cognitive, or sensory. When considering modifications, universal design really needs to be at the heart of what you're planning to do. So making sure that it is as usable for all people. Some of the topics that's also covered under universal design is it supports livability in your home. The length of time that you're able to remain in your home, and also that quality of the time that you spend there. Your ability to use your home and really maximize what you get out of it. And then universal design also touches on visitability, which might be a concept that is maybe new to you. Visitability is really the idea that someone of physical, cognitive, or sensory needs can still enter your home, visit your home, and be a guest there. So some key concepts or key components of that concept of visitability are like a zero-step entrance, so zero-grade entrance into the home. And it doesn't have to be the front door. It could be a side door. It could be the back door, whether that's a ramp or it's just a clear walk up to the zero-grade walk up to a door. There's also making sure that door widths are at least 32 inches wide, I believe, and making sure that that's a clear passageway for someone who uses a mobility device, and then sticking with that theme of a mobility device, ensuring that there's a bathroom on the first floor that is large enough to accommodate someone who might use a device to be able to be more mobile. So just keep universal design in mind as we go through this, and that's really the cornerstone of many of the products and the environment that we're trying to create. Again, using the chat, if you don't mind having a quick reaction to this image, what does this look like? How does this, given all the information that I presented, what comes to your minds? The stairs look pretty steep. Yeah, intimidating. Yeah, I got intimidating. Definitely. Injury prone, exactly. Perhaps hazardous, right? Yep, lengthy and inaccessible, exactly. I agree. So when you're looking at this image, I want you to keep in mind that, in our communities, we have a lot of homes that are like this. You probably have homes like this in your neighborhood, and that's totally fine. But we have to figure out ways that we can adapt them so that people can use them over time. And I think that that's really what we're going to be talking about today. And I want you to really keep in mind. So thanks everyone for participating in the chat. I'm now going to hand it over to, who is my first speaker? I believe it's Andy.
I am, yes.
Hi, Andy, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so as we start talking about taking care of our home and what we can do to adapt, let's begin with the exterior. So whether you have a house or an important, the exterior doorways need to allow a smooth transition in and out of the property. And as Addison just mentioned, one of the best ways to do it is to have a zero-step entrance. Can we go on to the next one, Addison? Zero-step entrances are accessible to all people, whereas raised entryways and steps can be a challenge for those with mobility limitations. Ideally, a home should have at least one zero-step entry, as Addison had mentioned before. Now, it's important to keep in mind that zero-step entrances doesn't have to be created for the front door. It can be a side door, garage door, entryway. It can also be created with landscaping by adding some type of sloping pathway that I think you can kind of see there that the pathway is sloping. So keep in mind that you have to determine whether or not it's practical to create a zero-step entrance given the landscaping and the size of your yard. This is something that you're going to have to consult a contractor or an occupational therapist or landscape architect to discuss what your options are there. So if by chance the zero-step entryway can't be achieved, there's ways to make your steps safer for everybody. So your steps need to have good lighting, they need to be free from obstruction, and they need to have railings on both sides. And this is a new one for me, that the railings need to extend past the last step to ensure a safe transition. Now, where space allows, if you can do that, excuse me, steps can be adapted into walker steps. And those have deeper treads and shorter rises. Walker steps are about 22 inches deep and about 4 inches high. And those allow people who are using walkers or canes to easily and safely utilize these steps. They're a good alternative to ramps that we're going to talk about next. Okay. So a ramp is something else that you can use that can be added, and ramps can either be permanent or, as you can see, temporary. Permanent ramps can be added by the contractor or other professional, while temporary ramps are really good solutions for renters or for visitors or those who don't want to permanently modify their home. Or if you have a relatively short step up from your entryway to overcome, you can also consider a threshold ramp, that small ramp, which is a little more inexpensive and it's easier to install. Now, the formula for ramping is, this is interesting, 1 foot of ramp is needed for every inch of elevation. So, for example, 12 inches of elevation equals 12 feet of ramp. That's quite a bit. So a consideration, if you're doing a ramp, is to do something that's called a switchback. And that's, I think, when you think of Disneyland and it has these winding ones where it goes and turns and comes up kind of U-shaped or depending on the length of your ramp. That can be used if you don't have a lot of space or if your ramp is more than 15 feet. There's so many things that you have to think about when getting a ramp that you want to make sure that, again, consult a professional for this type of thing. And another option for you, if your space is limited or you have a small front yard, you could do a vertical platform lift. Now, those can also be utilized in your garage, even for a relatively short elevation, because it allows for better usage of the garage space rather than taking up the entire garage with a ramp. And these also provide some protection from inclement weather. You know, a vertical platform lift, it has a call send button, as you can see. There's also a can crank in case the power goes out so that you can make sure that it still works. They've got an extra dry platform canopy, and you can even get a cold weather package. So you can really soup it up for your needs. But it's another way to look at additional access for those that may need it. And this too has to be installed by a professional. And this one goes with a licensed elevator professional. So We also need to consider now, we've made it up to the stoop or the porch, and we want to make sure that we've addressed our lighting issues and the address issue. And also, just a quick reminder, you see the green stars there, those are quick fixes. So those are things that usually can be done relatively easily and inexpensively. So keep that in mind as well. Now that we've covered these ways to modify the exterior for safety, let's talk about lighting. So lighting must be for safety reasons. You want to make sure there's at least one entry light that's at a height that doesn't require a ladder to change it. That's another newbie for me. So something within reach so that you can do some basic maintenance without having the danger of using a ladder. And you also might want to consider adding some pathway lighting. And that's another quick fix. I know like Dollar Tree has solar light stakes that you can just put in along the way. They're solar and it helps light your pathway. And finally, remember to display your address numbers so that they're prominently illuminated. You can get things at Home Depot, any of the hardware stores, Home Depot, Ace, Lowe's, that have glow-in-the-dark numbers or some type of reflective numbers so that it's visible at night. And you want to make sure people are having so many home deliveries now, or heaven forbid, a first responder needs to come to your house. You want to make sure that it's lit well so that all can easily find your place. Okay. So now we're at the entryway. We've made it up and we're up at the entryway. So again, whether you live in a single family home or an apartment, the exterior doorway should allow for a smooth transition into and out of the property. Safety, of course, is of utmost importance. The last thing you want is for someone to fall. So you could even consider adding a grab bar in your entrance, and you'd be surprised at how many people will probably want to use it. So when we think about just accessible entryways, the most important consideration, as Addison had mentioned earlier, was size. Specifically, the width of the doorway should be 32 inches to allow for a wheelchair to pass through, and the height should be at least 80 inches. I had to do the math. 80 inches is only 6 feet 6 inches, so that's not really tall, but it's tall enough to get people in. So remember those dimensions, that a door should be at least 32 inches wide and 80 inches tall. And when possible, the threshold, that part where you enter on the floor, should be less than 3/4 of an inch and should be beveled so you can allow for easy navigation. When the measurement's off just an inch or so, that width measurement, you can get these swing clear hinges, and they provide that needed space. They actually make the door opening as wide as possible by allowing the door to completely swing clear of the opening. You can look that up online and see. I have that in my house, and it's really nice because for my front door, and it opens all the way, and it's really been helpful for furniture too. Okay, while we're talking about our doorbells, our entryway, let's talk about the doorbells and the handles. Now, every door should have some access, some way of seeing outside. And many of them have a glass panel that you can see, or some have the windows on the side. But at the very least, make sure that you have at least a peephole so that you know who's there before opening the door. And nowadays, these video doorbells are great options. You can set it up as an app with your smartphone. Some of them show on the TV as well. You can answer your door then remotely. But for people that may have mobility issues and it takes them a while to get to the door, you can at least respond to people at the door before you get there. And if you're not home as well, you can still respond to them. As far as door handles go and doorknobs, a lever-style door handle is much easier to use than the doorknob or the latch thumb handle, especially for those with hand mobility concerns or people with full hands. And those with the knobs tend to have that little latch knock or push button lock. Those are also can be unintentionally and all too easily pressed or turned, locking people out of the home. And I can personally attest that that does happen. A higher tech solution for your entryway could be a digital door lock. It eliminates the need for a key and all that fumbling that comes with key usage. And the only thing there is that you have to remember what your code is. So now we've made it inside and we're on to our entry spaces. Now, not every home has a big formal foyer, but most homes have some sort of transition area just inside the door. We want to make sure that that space is free of clutter and that it provides some type of storage for things that you carry or things that are worn. It's also helpful, and you want to make sure that you have as much natural light and open spaces, so that helps prevent falls and lets the occupants move around freely within that space. And also in our entryway, we want to make sure that we're using the correct furniture for the space. And that's really important when we're looking at ways to modify for people who would need that. Consider equipping the space with like a small table or even a wall-mounted shelf so that you can put your keys someplace, you can put your shopping tub, your wallets, and other commonly used items. You can also consider adding a storage container to organize mail, coupons, put your phone down, the garage door openers. This too is another quick fix that can have great impact. Adding a bench to the space provides provides a location to put on and take off your shoes safely. But make sure you've got some kind of storage for your shoes and slippers, either underneath the bench or someplace else, as you see in this slide, so that you just don't have shoes all over the place, cluttering the place. And it helps keep your foyer free, tidy, and free of dirt and puddles, and keeps the place looking a lot better. And finally, if there's no closet in your foyer of your home, or like perhaps me, your closet is already full of stuff, consider putting some wall hooks on so that people have a place when they come in to unload and hang up their purses, their hats, their coats, and things of this nature. So now I've gotten you inside the house. You're in, we're feeling comfortable, but there are a lot of areas, as you stated, the most important area of the house is the kitchen and other areas. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tamara, to tell you what you can do in those areas.
Thank you very much, Andy. Now we're in the kitchen. Considerations for every diner, visitor, and cook. A few things here. Regardless of how many rooms a home has, residents and guests tend to congregate in the kitchen. I call it the heart of my home. I actually have a plaque up on my kitchen wall sitting right here by me that states, "Home is where the heart is." And my kitchen is certainly the heart of my home. But even the most welcoming kitchen has its hazards. Home fitting interventions can make the kitchen safer and easier to use for everyone. Next slide. The kitchen, rethinking your current space. When I became disabled years ago, I was happened to be working as an RN. I did this in-service, this teaching to a bunch of seniors around the city of Indianapolis, greater Indianapolis, at different senior centers, different neighborhood centers, Edna Bonner, Flanner House, Krista Moore House, different Riverside. It's just bunches of them where I spoke on these things. And I can never forget going home after the first teaching and changing my kitchen, changing things in my kitchen, changing things in my bathroom. But mostly I started with the kitchen. to sit at the table and prepare food. That was one of the first things I did because I had a lot of arthritis, a lot of back pain, upper back, middle back, low back pain, a lot of wrist, finger, and shoulder pain and problems. And one of the excuses I had for not cooking was because everything hurt and I couldn't quite do it. So it just gave me a new perspective on things. And I actually went home and sold my kitchen table and chair ensemble and invested in a bar height kitchen dinette set. I already had a kitchen cart, and then I invested in a bar stool, made everything counter height so that anything I was preparing, whether it was cutting vegetables, fruit, tenderizing meat, cutting things, doing whatever I was doing in the kitchen, everything was at counter height. My stove tops at counter height, my counter, and then of course my kitchen cart and the table. And I like to visit people and talk while I cook. So it just turned out to be a great thing for me. So that $250 investment that I made just with the chair, a new kind of not so expensive after a few sales that I've got for a new dinette set, just made a big difference in my life. It fixed it so that I'd stop cooking and I started cooking again. As a matter of fact, people come and love to eat in my home because I cook a lot. So it changed a whole lot in my life. And I can attest to how much just a little bit of investment goes a long way in changing your life for the better. So to be able to sit at the table, prepare food, work at a lower counter height made those differences for me. Those changes alone kept me at a safer level. It avoided spills on my floor. I didn't have to mop as much. I didn't have to clean as much. When there were vegetables or fruit like, pineapple or things like that, that were too juicy to take to the table or to the kitchen cart, I would do them right there next to the sink with the cutting board. And so these things were really, really impactful. Other considerations, think of pull-out cutting board or counter extension. That might be a cost-effective measure to consider when making modifications in your kitchen. And prioritize things. Everything does not have to be done right away. You can do things little by little, just budget them and prioritize what's right for you or that person for whom the modifications are made. And think of the changes that you're making, not just in your 50s or 60s, but think as time goes on, what needs may gather for the person who needs the modifications, because our life is going to change and we need to adapt with it. Next, oh, you're up there. Kitchen cabinets, shelving, and drawers. Adjustable lighting for ease of use. That's a big thing and something that could be quite inexpensive. Go to the hardware store, change those knobs, change lighting. Just little things like that can make a big difference. As far as my lighting in my kitchen, I bought a lot of I bought a dimmer. I had somebody come and help me. An electrician came. I actually paid a little bit of money for that. And I had a dimmer knob placed in as opposed to my old toggle switch. And it is recommended that you use that, but also to start using the rocker switches. That's a modification that can be made to change how lights are turned on instead of the toggle. You'd be surprised how many elderly cannot move just a switch. It's very difficult for them. And just a little bitty switch of the finger, those toggle switches, which will be on the next slide I'll show you, is easier for them. Also, lower level cabinetry and pull out shelves for better access. Think of this consideration may take some professional help, but it'll be worth it, well worth it as time goes on. Open shelving. I always say anything open is safer because you can see what's there. Just like in this picture here that's shown, you can see what would be sitting on top of that shelf and you'd be able to reach, and it's just a lot safer than grabbing things that you have to reach up high for, or you're not sure what's there. There could be broken glass sitting there, but what you can't see could be a hazard. So open shelving is a big plus. It boosts the level of safety. Use of drawers for maximum space. Drawers, particularly the drawers in the lower levels, so that where it's easier to reach. That's always a big plus. Now, I was talking about the lighting just a minute ago. It's recommended that under the cabinet lighting is one of the great adaptations that you can use, such as this counter, this cabinet. You can see it a little bit where the upper cabinet has the lower level doors. Yes, thank you. And there's a light under there. Just a small light under there, and it makes such a big difference. Another thing is when we're thinking about down the line, we may be ambulatory now, but down the line, you might need a wheelchair. You may need a walker. You might have to use a device or a rollator. So my theory on this, especially with kitchen and baths, is consider. You have to sit there and you actually have to picture things in your mind. What may be the scenario as time goes on? Frequently used items in the kitchen are best stored between the hips and shoulder areas of the body. That is actually what's recommended. So the more storage you have there, the safer it is for most of us. And I stated whatever you can see is a safer alternative, but that's in any area. I will say one more thing about drawers that I want to stress. Keep them well maintained. One of the things that we forget is when drawers start to show a nail or a chip or something's broken with them, they are hazards in themselves, big safety hazards where injuries can occur. There's been lots of people who have broken toes, broken insteps, feet, scrapes, lacerations, and whatnot because they had a stuck drawer that would not open, and then they yanked it and the drawer fell on them. Also, things can fall from upper levels, those upper shelves. That's why it's so important to try to get things as low as possible. Next slide, please. Looking at the kitchen handles and hardware. Find the most accessible handle design that's possible. This can be a quick and easy modification to make yourself, or they may require somebody that could help you, somebody that's a little more handy, or a professional. But it's well worth it, as I stated, down the line. Look for D-shaped handles for the drawers. This handle that's on the open drawer here, or both drawers actually, is considered to be a hazard because you have these loose ends open on both sides, and people have gotten, ties off of their blouses or shirts or whatever, connected to those pieces and yanked, or there could be any type of hazard, some kind of string or loose wire or anything that you could be carrying that you could end up yanking yourself and falling on. So anything that's considered flush to or 90-degree perpendicular angle to the drawer itself and totally closed off is actually a better D. Not just a D shape, but a D shape that touches both sides is really what's best recommended. As far as faucet types, that facilitate use and safety, what's recommended is a lever type faucet, one that's touch or sensor styled, uh, kitchen and baths for that matter. Ideally, one that's pressure balanced, temperature regulated, and kept at or below 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Actually, that's the upper level, 120 degrees as far as a temperature. I usually told a lot of the elderly people I took care of 110 was best. I got that from an occupational therapist that I used to work with. I said, don't tell them 120, tell them 110. And so that was pretty much what I stressed was the 110 degree Fahrenheit. A lot of their skin is sensitive anyway, and 120 degrees is pretty warm if you think about it. But nevertheless, that lower temperature is very, very important, and a lot of burns can occur if it's higher than that. Next slide, please. Now, looking at kitchen appliances, think of the stoves. Recommendations include installing a stove or cooktop with controls that's near the front of the device. Look at that arrow. These arrows are pointing to something to bring our attention in this picture. And we see the controls are in the very front. I have a mark on my right wrist. I must admit, I turned my stove off yesterday and forgot that my right front eye was on, and I grazed myself. So I've got a little mark there, and it can happen to anybody. I forgot that I had left one of the eyes of my electric cooktop on and burned myself. So it can happen, as I stated, to anyone. It shouldn't be control. If we can get away from having stoves or purchasing stoves that have the controls all the way in the back, you prevent yourself from the scalding, condensation from foods and so forth. So it's just a safer way to go. From pots and pans that may be too hot, as well as the burners on themselves. And then refrigerators. Look at this refrigerator in this picture here. Those with French doors are considered to be most recommended because you can look and see both sides of the refrigerator and see what's in there. It's again at that hip shoulder height, so you can see a lot of the things that are in there. And then also one of the things that's stressed for safety are items with doors. That's the stove with drawers, the refrigerator with drawers, dishwashers with drawers, anything that has drawers is what is recommended. So as you can see that there's points toward a couple of those items here in the pictures. And then think about your water and ice apparatus on your refrigerator as well. Remember, anytime you have anything with water, that's a safety hazard in itself. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about rubberized mats as when we talk about bathrooms, but remember to safeguard those areas where there's water and there can be spills because it can be very, very hazardous. And then microwave ovens need to be safely at counter height. I know for convenience sake, as you see, even in newer homes being built, most of them are still being built on top of or over the stove top. And that's considered a no-no under today's standards. It's better for them to be on the counter or at counter height, if at all possible, even if it's on a what they call a microwave oven or a storage cart. All of these arrows here are letting you know something, and just be really careful with these small appliances having the cordage that are sticking out. And anytime there are cords that are near water sources, there's a type of cord that is recommended, a GFCI, it's ground fault circuit interrupter. And we've seen those types of plugs in the wall, electrical plugs in the wall that have the LED light on them where you can actually hit the breaker and turn them on, turn them off quickly. Those are what is recommended because sometimes there could be a little fire, especially as things age, they malfunction, and you may have to snatch and run, just, really turn that off, quickly be able to knock that off. And that's what's recommended for any type of electrical use near a water source. And that's in all of your rooms, not just the kitchen. Next slide, please. Well, before I move to that, there were a few other kitchen considerations that I'll just talk about real briefly. Make sure that you keep an ABC rated fire extinguisher, a lightweight fire extinguisher. There's no sense in getting a big, fancy, heavy one if the person who's going to use it, or just in general, not having a big fancy one is not really considered a good idea in general. But just a lightweight, and that someone in the home knows how to use it, whether it's the caregiver, it may not be the person for whom the modifications are made, but if at all possible, folks know how to use that. Keep flashlights handy in multiple rooms for safety needs. Make sure that you use light bulbs that are properly rated. If there's a light lamp or whatever the appliance is, and it says 40 to 60 watt, it's recommended use 60 watt, the highest level bulb for that particular appliance or electrical item. It doesn't use any more electricity, and it's still considered to be fairly safe, and it'll prevent you from trying to find another light if that one's too dim. So that's just, I believe, the thought behind that. I already talked about the switches for the lights. Electrical cords, just keeping them out of the way, keeping them out of sight, away from the stove, away from hot elements. There are all types of things that can be purchased at the hardware store where you can loop those and shorten them. And I know you've seen them. We even see them when we purchase a new item. They'll even have a little piece of Velcro closure on them so that you can keep that cord tight. And install smoke detector on every level of the home. And this is very important, of course, being a kitchen area, and carbon monoxide detectors for any type of gas appliances use in the home. Moving right along, let's go to the bathroom. Creating a safe and convenient space. This area of the home requires additional considerations when considering a HomeFit home. There are two pet peeves I have, and one of them is preventable falls. I say that every time I do this teaching for anyone. Any type of preventable fall, I cringe. I've been that way, and I knew that before I even became a nurse. So it just made it even worse once I became a nurse, because I've preached that my entire career. You have so many things in a bathroom that's hard surface that can be an injury, what will cause pain once you hit yourself or hurt yourself or get injured somehow around them. You got the wall, you got the floor, you got the tub, the toilet, the sink, and then there's water everywhere. And so all these things together are a bad soup for fall, preventable or otherwise. Moving right along, next slide. In the bathroom, there are some low-cost safety devices that we can use. One is a commode chair. Now, a lot, in my experience, commode chairs are not usually mostly used in the bathrooms. Believe it or not, they're used in bedrooms because the person either can't fit through the bathroom door, or they have difficulty getting to the bathroom in time with, particularly bladder issues, or what, for whatever the reason. It's just uh, happened to be more easier for them to use the commode chair. And that's caused a lot of problems too, because of, you think of sanitary issues, but nevertheless, that has been my experience. And many are covered at least partially by insurance, because it is a durable medical equipment item. And DME is usually covered, well, with Medicare, I believe it's still 50%. I could be quoting wrong, but I believe it's still 50%. Most insurances will keep you somewhere around Medicare's out-of-pocket costs for that, as long as it's considered medically necessary. Now, everybody wouldn't get that benefit. It would just be for someone who has those deficits and would need it. And then there's a shower, these different shower options that can be cost safety devices. You may require someone professional to install that item and to make sure that it's properly set up in the home. But once that's done, that's kind of a really long time, and it's well maintained, usually in the home, when it's put in the home properly, when it's set in the home properly. And a lot of these are adjustable and handheld, so they've made them even better as time has gone on. I've seen some great safe shower devices. And then there's the comfort type toilet and the toilet base riser. As you can see in this picture here, there's about a 3.5-inch base on this toilet. That's the toilet base riser. There's also a type that can be placed on and then taken off to be washed or water hose and cleansed and then put back on. It's called an elevated toilet seat. And they've even gotten safer as time has gone on, where you can clamp them down on top of the toilet seat, on top of the toilet rim, and they stay in place, pretty stationary. And they give anywhere from a 3 to 4 inch extra height, just as this toilet riser does. And then there's also the transfer bench to assist with showering. I usually end up wet in the tub with the person I was showering using these or not using these, but this is certainly safer, especially for a wheelchair bound patient, somebody who has a wheelchair where the arm can drop and all they'd have to do is drop the arm down flat, slide over, someone assist their legs over, and they can get in there and close the shower curtain and have a really nice comforting shower just like everybody else. So these are great low cost options. I will add one thing to this, and this is not a low cost option. One of the things that I did, I don't know if I was spoiling myself and I was just thinking I would never get better, but I actually invested in a walk-in tub in 2015, and I was told the value of my walk-in tub is really increasing the value of my home if I sell it. So just a few days ago, by a realtor, he said that people are actually looking for homes like mine that actually have the tub already included, recently purchased tub already included. So those are other options, and they're very costly, new upgrades to showers and tubs and so forth. But those things are available as well. Moving on. Bathroom grab and assist bars. It's well worth paying a professional to properly install these items. One of the things that I found with using these types of grab bars is they were poorly placed on the walls. There's stud finders and all kinds of things that were not used when these things were placed on a lot of walls. And then you've gone in bathrooms, I'm sure, where there's been holes in the wall where someone didn't properly apply these, to the wall. And some of these devices incorporate other things, such as a toilet paper holder. You got a grab bar with a toilet paper holder. I don't think I like the one with the soap because soap is wet, and you know how I feel about wet stuff. And then as far as the grab bars are concerned, there is kind of a rule of thumb. It's safer to have one that is placed horizontally versus diagonally or vertically, straight up and down. And I know the hospitals still have grab bars. When you go to the hospital bathrooms, you see that diagonal bar still in place, but this was probably before those recommendations were made. And then there's other bathroom considerations. It's recommended that we insulate exposed pipe to prevent burns from condensation due to hot water going through our pipes. And then also, I talked about that GFCI device near the water sources. Again, in the bathroom, that's the case as well. Same way with the sink. Get those types of sinks that's got the same type of pressure balance under 120 degrees Fahrenheit checked type items, and they're lever touch or sensor type style type faucets. Also use non-slip skid strips on rubberized bathroom surfaces. Well, you can use the strips for the inside of tubs for showers, but underneath the mats, get one that's rubberized at the top, and then get those types of non-movable, sticky, double-sided tape surfaces at the bottom. And that's supposed to keep them in place. And you may have to replace them. I've had to replace mine before, just take the whole old strip off and restrip them, but it's well worth it to keep people safe in your home. Moving right along. Let's go to living spaces now, incorporating modern conveniences and universal design. And Addison mentioned universal design focuses on safety for all, safety for everybody, the livability for everyone in the home. Now, one of the things I want you to kind of picture right now is think of everyone as a visitor or guest in your home, and boost your thinking of importance to what I'm about to say here. Start to view your home with these visitors, such as if they were in a hotel. Your house is the hotel. And some of them, you've got people that may knock over items off your table, such as your lamp, your great expensive Tiffany lamp that you've got plugged in there. People may trip over extension cords in your home. You may have a fall due to a flipped edge of a rug. You may have someone who somehow got tangled in the drapes, the drape cord or the blind cord on your windows, and here their arm is somehow got hooked to it and they're getting injured that way. You might have a person in a wheelchair that's bumped a big tall cabinet, and all of a sudden the books in the cabinet fell on them. That person in the wheelchair might get stuck, or somehow something's going wrong here when they try to park their wheelchair between your couch area and, say, a table in your home, because there's just not enough room, but they're just trying to find a little nook or a place where they can sit and not be in the thoroughfare. And someone may not be able to get out of a low-lying chair. Just a few little examples of things to just think of. These are people who are guests in your home. Next slide, please. Now, as far as safety considerations for those things that I've just discussed, What do you need to change? How would you ensure the safety of your guests? And here's a couple of stars here, those quick change items that the other my colleagues were talking about are pictured here. One is to anchor all these tall furnishings to the wall with some type of furniture straps, such as the bookshelf. There are furniture straps you can buy at the hardware store, or somebody can, who may be able to assist in properly installing those so that the furniture doesn't tip over. Secure exposed cords to the floor using electrical cord approved adhesive covering. If you'll look at that table in the front here, there is a little strip and a star next to it where the cord is underneath that strip. Somebody has secured that strip to the floor, the cording to the floor, and gotten it where it's not just hanging out there for somebody to trip over. Provide 2 feet of clear space between a coffee table or ottoman and couch so that folks can maneuver around them. Remember that wheelchair person that is stuck sort of between the 2 pieces of furniture? It's recommended a couple of feet between those items may help to prevent something like that. Remove excessive clutter in your home, just as Andy was talking about removing clutter and avoiding clutter on the outside and different areas. Remove that clutter on the inside of your home. That's a big safety consideration in any area. Avoid furniture with sharp corners and secure window treatments and those types of cordage to prevent entanglement of somebody's arm or somebody's finger or a little kid or whatever. And then, secure those rugs to the floor with non-slip mats or double-sided tape. As you can see, there's a star down there on the other side with the little flipped rug over near the TV. And that's what that is referring to. This needs to be, there's some strips underneath that, and those things help to adhere that rug down to the floor. And these types of things in your home will help to make your home a lot safer. And when I stated looking at everyone as a guest, even start looking at yourself as a guest in your own home or in whoever the home is being modified for, because you need to take care of everyone in the home, the babies, including yourself. And there's 2 sconces up here on the wall. As opposed to having a lamp on the table, these little lights that are on either side, both sides of the window treatment in this picture are called sconces, and they don't require the cordage. And that's a big consideration for modification now. Moving to the next slide, please. Let's look at lighting and electrical. Use natural light as much as possible. Open the blinds and curtains during the day to allow for this. Night light and motion censored lighting is a big recommendation for HomeFit. Get dusk to dawn type motion censored lights, or even the plug-in type of night lights. Anything is better than just not having enough light at all. And then I talked about the switches. These are the rocker style switches that I was referring to in an earlier slide. The rocker style switches should be replaced. It's recommended in all rooms, in hallways and stairwells. And they are so much easier, especially for people with arthritic fingers, just to barely touch a button as opposed to trying to push back and forth. And sometimes those toggle switches get a little stuck, especially when they get dirty. Use glow-in-the-dark light switches. I just purchased one. I haven't put it together yet. I just purchased one just to see if I like it. Some fixes may, especially the electrical things, may require a professional. So keep that in mind. You may need a professional to do a lot of these things, but it's, again, well worth everything. Remember, you should try to modify using a ceiling light that is controlled at the door. One where once the person opens the door, they can hit that switch as opposed to walking a foot or two before they can turn on a lamp, or may forget something is sitting in the middle of the floor or not know it's there, and then end up it's a fall hazard. So it's considered a very important to do that. Don't enter darkened rooms. And then I talked about the stairways and the hallways. Make sure there's a light switch at the top of the stairway and a light switch at the bottom of the stairway. Same way with both ends of the hall. If you have one at one end of the hall and then you have a long hallway, make sure there's another switch at the other end so that no matter which end you use, you can safely walk down that hallway and don't have to walk a darkened hall and end up with another hazard. Touch controlled lamps, speaker controlled lamps. Again, you're getting into cost, but those are also options for people as well. Next slide. Let's look at the dining areas. A lot of dining rooms now are repurposed. People are using them as craft rooms, they're using them as breakfast nooks, they're using them as all types of things, except for when Thanksgiving, this time of the year, the company comes over, the guests are in from out of town. Now you have your formal dining room that you may use again, but for the most part, people kind of migrate to an area where the computer or the TV is, and that's where they eat their regular meals, or maybe even on the go. So do still remember comfort and utility when dining. And it's recommended that, as you can see, there's two chairs kind of at the north and south end, I guess, depending on which way you look at it. It could be east or west, but they have armrest. It's recommended that particularly someone with difficult mobility have a chair that's got good backing and have armrests and a wide base underneath so that the chair doesn't topple over with the weight as it's moved, and they have something to get leverage to push themselves up on, such as the armrest of the chairs. Also, using lightweight trays is recommended when carrying cups and glasses, your plates and so forth from the kitchen area to another room, and be very careful with the spillage, and also with hot beverages. But spills in general are a hazard, but hot spills are even a bigger hazard because you can scald yourself and burn yourself. And then if using a kitchen island for meals, remember us again, get seating that's got backs to them, a wide base of support, one that's easy to get up and down with the armrest. Next slide, please. Living spaces, hallways, and stairwells. I've talked a little bit about these with other things, but just remember to repair broken or poorly maintained stairs. There's nothing worse than to see nails sticking out of something, or something that's really poorly maintained, such as the carpet on stairs, where that can be a hazard in itself. So make sure that the carpet is considered safer if it's low level, like a Berber carpet. It's got a low pile, and it's some kind of contrasting color as well. If everything is beige and somebody has poor eyesight, you don't know where one step ends and the next step starts. So try to make the back of the step maybe a contrasting color to the bottom of the step, so that folks will know where one step ends and the next step starts. Because sometimes people can't navigate because of color blindness or color issues or just poor vision. You have handrails, using them just like you'll use them outside on that those items outside. Handrails should be on both sides of the step, and they should go extend all the way at the end, past the end of the last step. And any type of carpeting that is used, make sure it's tacked down properly and well flush to the floor. If there's no carpet on the steps, make sure that there's some type of rubberized treads that are applied to the steps to prevent types of falls. I talked about the motion-centered lights and how you can see even in this picture, there's 3 lights along this stairwell, and then you've got a switch at the top, a switch at the bottom. And so you see that kind of applied what I was discussing earlier. And then there's an area here in the hallway where there's a motion censored type of night light. So as the person gets closer, that light comes on. That's really great adaptation for any room. Keep everything as well lit as possible, and make sure that if there is any furniture out in the hallway, that there is at least a 36-inch clearance to be able to walk around it. That's kind of a rule of thumb. You see this cabinet that's sitting out in the hallway. There should be at least 36 inches. Moving right along, next slide. Also in our living spaces, just like there's an outside stair lift to help get you from one level to the next, there is a stair lift to get you from one level to the next in the inside of the house. There are a few items here to really stress for these, though. This is an alternative solution for 2-story dwellings. It's somewhat practical and might be safe for some people, but one of the biggest problems, one of the biggest factors that people talk about not really wanting one is that people fall who have these. But then on the other hand, other people are safer with them. And I researched a little bit and found, I believe that most of the people who are falling are people who cannot really, they have that psychologically they can't navigate this type of an appliance. They don't know to wait for assistance once the chair gets all the way to the top or the bottom, and they'll just get up and start moving or walk away from it. It's hard to get them to understand that they still need assistance with these. So it's not that it's just inherently dangerous so much as it's not applicable for everyone to be able to use these types. And there are rentals that are available for these stair lifts, and some of them are sold used as well, which greatly reduces the price, because for a new one, it's probably going to be a couple K at least to get a brand new one, maybe more if you want all the bells and whistles. Next slide, please. Now this is my last area, the laundry room, adaptations and best practices. Many newer homes have a washer and dryer room upstairs where the bedrooms are. I know my son just built a home in Noblesville, and they thought it was the perfect thing until 3 days later when there was water all down the walls, and it was really messed up, a brand new home, and they had a big leak upstairs, and it went all the way down and stained their walls and everything. So they had to get a lot done, believe me, but they are nice. What is considered a best location, the best recommended location for a laundry room, is actually near the room where clothing is to be put on or taken off by the person who the modification is made. So again, if the bedrooms are upstairs, that probably would be applicable. An alternative to this type of investment would be a laundry service, some type of home-based, laundry service that somebody can help with. And there, sometimes people just, they can have a laundry room, or it's okay to have the laundry room, but it's difficult because of back pain or certain type of issues. So they just may need modifications in the type of equipment that's used in the laundry room, such as in this picture here, there's a rolling cart, which is what you see in a laundromat without the pole with the flag and all that, but there is a rolling cart there. So that might be an option for someone who can't lift very heavy objects, or it's difficult for them to do a lot of lifting. There's also something hanging there for clothing, for, like damp clothing. You can use still hang things up too in a laundry room, which is great. There's also another quick fix as far as some people may not be able to bend down and reach the doors and maneuver the doors well, or it may be harmful to them. So platforms can be built for both items or the one item. And there are washers and dryers that are stackable, but a lot of times that's considered more of a convenience item and an item that is, for safety or anything like that. So just like with anything else, consideration, consideration, consideration. And, if there's also the top loading versus the front loading item to consider as well. It might be difficult for people to actually reach down and use their shoulders and arms and whatnot, and it just might be easier just to get a front loading washer and dryer. And then one last thing is an alternative investment for a laundry room would possibly be to oh, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Use the kind of washer and dryer combo. There is one now where there's a washer and dryer in one washer sized unit containing a condenser dryer. I don't know much about those, but I do know that's also an option for people as well. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm going to back this back to my colleague, Addison.
Thank you, Tamara. Appreciate that. Thank you to Andy and you for presenting on the room by room tour. Super important. I hope everyone who participated today was able to get a good idea of some fixes that they might be able to make to their home, both in the short term and in the long term. Some great food for thought. I wanted to share this page of resources with you. So as I mentioned at the top, we have our AARP Livable Communities program, which you can find at the link there, as well as the AARP HomeFit guide. So you can download a digital version as well as get a hard copy version of that. You can order that or download it at that web address, aarp.org/homefit. And then HomeFit AR, which is actually an application that you can download through the Apple App Store, where I believe it has access to your camera, and you can kind of hover over a space in your house, and it provides recommendations to make your home more fit. I do want to just remind everyone, if you do have questions, please put those in the chat, and we'll do our best to acknowledge those and answer those. Just wanted to comment on the AARP Foundation as well. They have a Here to Stay Home Upkeep for All. It's a step-by-step guide to help you plan and prepare for home maintenance, making it more manageable and affordable. You can get that at aarpfoundation.org/here to stay. Couple other resources that are external to AARP that are super important. Occupational therapists. So these are professionals who deal with modifying spaces, or what have you to suit the abilities of an individual who might need support. So the American Occupational Therapy Association, AOTA.org, is a great resource. You can go to patients and clients section and find some more resources there. Perhaps find an occupational therapist in your area who you could consult. And speaking of consulting others, there's also certified aging in place specialists that can be found in communities across the country. So these are builders who are typically part of the National Association of Home Builders, NAHB.org. You can also just go on your favorite internet search site and search certified aging in place specialists in your community, and you'll likely find a list of specialists. So these are folks that are really knowledgeable about aging in place and home modifications and remodeling, and will have a good idea of what could work for your space. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. These are some web addresses that you can check us out on at our social media. You can get on, the X, the site formerly known as Twitter, for follow us there, as well as Facebook, and you can access our website at aarp.org/in. I do notice that there is a comment in the chat. So we have a couple questions here. So someone is looking for a type of small hydraulic equipment to lift rollator up 4 entry steps to enter the home. Yeah, so that would be similar to the lifts that we discussed in the first couple slides. I know that you could probably search that on the internet for one that might fit your home, but remember what we had talked about. I believe Andy was presenting on those slides and talked about consulting a professional. So the certified aging in place specialist might be a good place to start for something tailored to that. I hear someone on the line, so if it's Andy or Tamara, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, I think the certified aging in place is your best option. They would know who and how to contact, who to contact to get the correct person. An architect would also be one to, home builders or architects are also resources, but I think the first one was the best bet.
Absolutely.
This-
Thank you for that. And then we have another question. How do you recommend approaching loved ones with the importance to modify their living spaces? This is huge. It's a great question. And there's a follow-up question. Is there a service of an expert without financial motivation to come into a home and suggest modifications? So I'll just take the last question first, and really go back to an occupational therapist. I don't know if they don't have a sort of like sales pitch or anything of that sort. I think occupational therapists can be more of a consultant in this area to figure out like what modifications make sense for your space. So I think that is probably the route to go. A certified aging in place specialist could probably do the same, but they're gonna want to provide probably an estimate to you about very specific fixes that you have. How do you recommend approaching loved ones about the importance of modifying their living spaces? This actually overlaps with a resource that we have called Prepare to Care, which is a caregiving resource, which we presented on last week, actually, if you want to go to the recording at aarp.org/in and find it there. But you can also search Prepare to Care Guide. One of the recommendations that they make with all caregiving needs, whether it be financial or what have you, you just really need to look for openings. Maybe you've bumped into something, or you're sitting around the living room someday and you're thinking like, oh, like this could be a good fix or something like that, just to make it easier. If it just comes up in conversation, or if it just makes sense at the time to bring it up, I think that's really important. I think you really have to read the person and kind of understand how to approach things. And sometimes it's not you who has to communicate that. Sometimes it depends on the messenger, right? You might want to have someone who is maybe a distant relative or someone like a friend make these recommendations. Sometimes it helps hearing it from different voices. We have another comment, missed the info on the have searched this. So yeah, so I will go back to the last couple slides. So here are those resources. So if you want to take a screenshot of this or write down a couple of these resources, so AOTA.org is the Occupational Therapy Association, and then there's the Certified Aging in Place Specialist through the National Association of Home Builders, NAHB.org, and then all of the AARP resources are listed up there as well. You can find all of those at aarp.org/livable. All right, and Dan has put the caregiver resource Prepare to Care in the chats. Thank you, Dan. And then you can all see the recordings of our Caregiver Weeklies at that link in the chat as well. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate you. It's been really great to have this back and forth. I want to thank Tamara and Andy again for spending time and sharing their expertise. If you did enjoy today's program, you can go to our web address to find recordings. And just keep in mind that, you know, as the holidays are approaching, especially Thanksgiving upon us at the time of this recording, this might be a good time to look for, you know, ways to improve our spaces. So just something I want to leave you with before we sign off today. So thank you all so much and have a great holiday weekend. Take care.